Welcome everyone. Great to have you with us for our webinar today. In today's session, we'll be walking through some of the telltale signs that may indicate you could get a lot more value out of having NetSuite through support offered through some of the NetSuite partners. My name is Matt. I'll be your host for today's event. Before we get started, let's go through our housekeeping items. So today's webinar qualifies for 1 hour of CPE credit. To get credit today, make sure to remain logged in for at least 50 minutes and respond to at least 3 poll questions. We'll have 6 polls. We'll conduct those throughout today's webinar. As long as you respond to at least 3 of those, you will qualify for CPE credit. If you do qualify for CPE credit, you can download your certificate from your Incorsa account, and that will be available starting 1 hour after our webinar concludes. Should you have any questions on the polls or CPE, you can interact with us throughout the webinar in that questions box or offline at support@incorsa.com. You can download a copy of today's presentation from that handout section in your pop-up GoToWebinar pane. We also attached it to your Incorsa account, so should you have any issues downloading it on the presentation, just know that you can download it from your account at any time. Today's webinar will be recorded. By signing up today, you'll have on-demand access to the recording, and we'll post that recording to your Incorsa account at some point this evening. As always, we'd like our webinar to be interactive, so as you have questions, feel free to submit those in the questions box. We'll keep an eye on those questions throughout the event and try to respond as time permits. If we don't get back to you on your specific question during the webinar, someone will be sure to follow up offline. And feel free to head on out there now to that questions box. Let us know where you're joining from. That lets us know that you know how to interact with us, and we'd be glad to give you a warm welcome. Today's webinar is brought to you by goVirtualOffice. goVirtualOffice is an award-winning NetSuite provider helping companies enhance productivity, improve efficiency, and grow profits by unifying, simplifying, and automating business processes. Joining us today from goVirtualOffice is Renee and Leslie. Renee is a senior business consulting manager. Leslie is a business consulting manager, and they both have a wealth of knowledge and experience around getting the most value out of NetSuite as an ERP system. So Renee and Leslie, thanks so much for being here to present today. I will turn things over to you.
Great, thanks, Matt. So just a little bit of background about ourselves. So as Matt indicated, my name is Renee Linscheid. I have been with goVirtualOffice for 8 years. Prior to that, my background is in supply chain operations. So I have 8 years here at GVO, but 25 years of industry experience in both electronics, biotech, and the retail warehouse distribution environments. So Leslie, a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Renee. Yes, my name is Leslie Chicker, and I have been with goVirtualOffice about 7.5 years. My background, my degree is in accounting. I have had experience in customer service, purchasing, supply chain, many gamuts of the industries that we support.
Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started then. So Matt, we got our first poll question. So which of the following best represents how your organization conducts your business?
Great, thank you. And that poll has been launched. That should be up on everyone's screen. So this will give us a good sense of who's in the audience today. Make sure to get your responses in quickly. We'll shut this poll down in about 10 seconds. And of course, if you're in a sector or industry that's not represented here, you can select other there and go ahead and let us know in the questions box. We'll keep an eye on that. Okay, thank you everyone in the audience. The responses are coming in quickly. We'll shut this down in 5 seconds. All right, let's take a quick look at the results, and kind of a mix out there. There's a lot of people in business services, some manufacturing, retail, a little bit of wholesale distribution, a lot of people saying other. We're seeing O&G, renewable energy, so looks like a good mix out there.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started then with why support matters. NetSuite complexity and adoption challenges at a glance are kind of what we're going to focus on here. The first thing is that typical NetSuite implementations take generally about 3 to 9 months. Again, it depends on the size of your business and how many customizations you have. So obviously making sure that you understand what that scope looks like can be the first challenge that comes within doing any type of implementation and then supporting your environment thereafter. So just longevity of the implementation generally runs into some risk sometimes if you're not well planned out. All right, Leslie.
Yeah, then 73% of the users report customization complexity. So if you're not familiar with NetSuite, right, and understanding how it operates, it's really easy because of the flexibility to just try and customize and do a lot of workarounds. So that's where some of the support that we provide helps you get back to the native functionality instead of getting all this rogue customization if it's not necessary.
All right. So again, another poll question we've got up here. What additional support or resources do you think would help your organization maximize its NetSuite investments?
Thank you. Yep, and that poll question has been launched. It's up on everyone's screen. Please note this is multiple choice, multiple answers, so you can select more than one option here for this poll. And again, we'll keep this open for 30 to 45 seconds to allow you time to respond to this.
Renee, any guesses which one you think is going to run out?
I'm thinking the number one, definitely customization training. That's
For sure,
what we
right?
usually see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems to be a popular choice so far. So we've got most of the audience has responded. We'll keep this open for about 5 more seconds. Okay, let's take a quick look at the results. And Renee, I think you're right. So a lot of people are saying customized training system health checks, kind of spread across the remaining options, shorter subscription terms, fewer suite apps installed, reduced partner of record involvement. Definitely interest in all these here. I guess one of the first option here is customized training. So when we think about that, Leslie or Renee, can you provide a little more insight into what that might look like when working with a NetSuite partner such as goVirtualOffice?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start on this one, Leslie. So when we think about customized training and system health checks, we as a Boost program that we offer, it's really kind of getting in with that customer, understand the client's needs, understand the needs of the end user. So once we understand the business and the process, then we can go through and provide the training to the end user that's going to help them get from A to Z. By understanding what it is that they're trying to accomplish and what all the inputs and outputs are, we can really make sure that we've customized that training to get from each step efficiently without a lot of workarounds and getting the end result. I think the system health checks are important because, again, that just keeps everybody in line and making sure that as the business evolves, that they're continuing to use the system to the best of its ability and eliminating maybe some of the manual workarounds that someone's trying to circumvent, or it helps to understanding why they're doing what they're doing, because they may have found another effective means of getting to the answer. Because with NetSuite, there's multiple ways of getting to different screens and different processes. So it's not always just a one-stop shop. We always want to kind of understand as the business evolves and grows, what opportunities are there to continue maximizing its effort. Anything you want to add with that, Leslie?
No, I think you've touched on some key points there, and we will be talking through this a little bit more in some of our other bullet points too.
Yep.
Great. Thank you both for the insight. We'll go ahead and shut this down and move on.
All right. So next, I'm going to kind of talk about this a little bit, but again, about 50% or more really is what you see as far as data migration and integration hurdles when switching over to NetSuite. This is probably bar none the first thing that we always uncover when trying to do a new implementation with the client is we really want to make sure that you don't have, bad data in, bad data out. It's cleaning that information up, making sure that you understand what data you're putting into the system, and then you can articulate how you're going to use that data. Again, if you don't have a need for it, find out, is it just filler? Is it fluff? Does it have a meaning to go forward so that you can report on it effectively? If it's garbage in, it's going to be garbage out, right? So you want to take that time and the effort up front to make sure that it's clear on what the data is in the old system, how it's going to align in your new NetSuite instance, and then anything that you can do to support what that data is. Again, you probably find it in time as individuals leave organizations and move on, that wealth of knowledge goes with that previous person as well. And so anything that you can help to support why the data was captured, how the data was being used, and build that business process story, that helps you to grow what the meaning is on the go forward, or helps to explain to someone new coming into the organization what you're going to be doing with that data. We always kind of hear I don't know, we just get the data. You're like, well, what are we going to do with it? Like, kind of pull that information out. So it's key to make sure that through that, switching and implementation process, you'd really have a clear understanding of your migration data and also any integration points that you're building off of. All right, Leslie.
All right. Then we could see 65% of organizations face post-implementation adoption struggles, right? So couple of things here as we were just talking through. When we typically do, whether it's a full-on implementation or even as we now are supporting and working through, couple of things we like to do. We strongly suggest that you have sandbox environments, because sandbox allows us to put the new functionality in and have you be able to work through it in that sandbox environment before it has to impact any live production data. The other thing from implementations too is we like to do crawl, walk, run, right? Adoption as well. So making sure that maybe we present what our thoughts are for this, order to cash or procure to pay or whatever lane it may be. We'll walk you through the natural native. Then maybe we have a collaboration on how much the native works or where we need to do some customizations. Then the next time through, we're going to have you guys involved in more of a hands to keyboard as we walk through it, right? So you're getting that feel. And then the third time through, because we always like to try and hit the third time, now we're using real world scenarios, right? That make it very meaningful too. So that's kind of how we help make the adoptions more relevant for your team.
Yep, great. All right. Again, another part of neglecting systems is about a 20 to 30% productivity loss when ERP system issues are left unresolved. We kind of touched on this a little bit. So again, if you don't have a clear understanding of what the processes are in your business, or the right mix of individuals that are managing that part of the process aren't involved up front in discussions, then you start to find out that either the system was set up incorrectly, that you don't have buy-in from those end users, and instead of speaking up, in some cases, they're just going to find their own workaround. They're going to do things either the way that they've always been doing it. They may just say, hey, it's easy enough just to dump it into Excel and massage and manage what I want to see with it. Or only partially filling out data because, you know what, they'll know what it means down the road. So again, it's really critical to make sure that, at the very beginning of either an implementation, a recovery, a new project, are all stakeholders involved in that conversation up front, making sure that everyone not necessarily has kind of a vote or a say, but at least just input into understanding the process, so that whoever those stakeholders are that are in front of the organization, they truly do have a great understanding of what it's going to take to accomplish the task. Assumptions being made are generally where we start to see downfalls in the system, right? So it is very clear to either have that subject matter expert, someone who can speak to the business process, speak to what the outcome is, but that has then the business support of what needs to happen as the outcome. So kind of working in a little bit of a collaboration. And we always find that by having, maybe that subject matter expert, someone who is physically involved in the day out, having them at the table helps from change management. And again, just making sure that issues are addressed up front in the process and not after you've gotten all the way through and now you're at the time of either a go live or implementing that process, to only find out that something wasn't discussed correctly or an assumption was made, because now, again, either you're going to have that workaround, you're going to have unresolved feelings, or the business may just shut down. They're like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And then that adoption rate starts to, slowly dwindle away, and you're not seeing your ROI on the investment. All right, next poll question. Describe one area of your NetSuite account that could benefit from optimization, and how would you address it?
Thank you. That poll question has been launched. That should be up on everyone's screen. So our options here are user adoption, conduct targeted training sessions, increase contract length without review, delete all unused features, or change the partner of record frequently. So again, we'll keep this open for about 30 more seconds to allow enough time to respond to this poll.
I don't know about you, Leslie, but those are some pretty interesting answers that you can choose from there. So
Yeah.
Okay, most people have responded. We'll shut this down in 5 seconds. Take a quick look at the results. So I think it's not surprising a lot of people say user adoption, conducting targeted training sessions, that would be common. One thing that pops out to me here is that a lot of people are saying delete all unused features. So Leslie and Ray, as you think about your experience when working with clients on NetSuite, is it common to find features or apps that are part of their NetSuite environment that are not being utilized? And how does that impact their system or account?
Yeah, no, deleting unused features, we've got different ways that we can approach that too, right? In NetSuite, you've got a dashboard for the users. So we want to try and bring everything we can to that dashboard for the users to make it really easy, like one click away, right? Instead of maybe the longer navigations through the tiles, we could bring everything onto their dashboards to make that experience a little bit user-friendly. And then the other thing where we get more into delete, if you want to call it that, is customizing forms, right? So depending on the users when they're going in to enter data, instead of having all those fields there and they've got to figure out which ones they really need to fill in, we find a lot of times we're helping customize those forms based on the roles to make sure that the fields they really need to pay attention to are the fields that are available for their input or even just reviewing records. And that helps sometimes with that, making it more relevant.
That makes sense too. And just go ahead. Sorry, Renee.
I was just saying, and I think, maybe part of it is not necessarily a delete, but it's the concept of hide, right? Because as they maybe want to continue to grow and optimize the features available, you bring those features to the forefront at that time, but it's not really, it's a delete. You just want to make sure, just hide it. It's like get the noise out of the system to start with. And again, to Leslie's point before about having that sandbox, that allows you to introduce those new features as a business is growing and maturing.
That's great. Is there efficiency considerations here too, where a client may be having all these features or apps they're not using, they don't need it, and you're able to identify those, maybe pull some of those back or get rid of some of those, and that speeds up their system?
Definitely.
Yeah, getting to Leslie's point too, like this, the customizing the forms or the dashboards is if you really find out where either the efficient flow of data is, so you're moving through the form and you're only seeing what you need to fill out, that helps from an input standpoint that, you can quickly go through without having to read all of them or oh, I missed that one by mistake. I should have remembered it. It does. It allows you to use the system with the least number of clicks.
Comes full circle too, right? Because as Renee talked about, dirty data. If people have too many fields to fill in, they might just put something in there that really isn't relevant, and now we've got dirty data. So it comes kind of full circle a little bit too.
Yeah, we had an audience member say all the above. So apparently we should have offered that because there's it should have been an option because they would like to all these areas would like to be optimized. So that's great. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and shut this poll down.
All right.
All right. 1.5 times more is spent on post-implementation fixes than on proper early planning. Renee's talked about this already a little bit too, right? Scope. It's important to have scope. And again, we like to, so some implementations, right, are rushed and it's more of we have a deadline that we have to meet. So it's rushed to get to that deadline and get it live. We like to pre-plan beforehand, identify all the areas of scope, and then really focus on those. And like we said, we're doing that crawl, walk, run. And now by the time we get to implementation, we've already done, 1 or 2 or possibly 3 iterations of that line of business or area of focus in the system. So by the time they get to the implementation and go live, they're ready to use the day-to-day activities, and they're feeling comfortable, and the adoption is there.
Absolutely. All right. So, I mean, these things you can see there's a story here, right? So 70% of failed ERP projects stem from ignored system misalignments, poor change management, or outdated processes. We've even seen it in our line of business, right? It's either, we're getting asked to come into an implementation in kind of like a recovery mode. And either it might be just the client and the previous provider they weren't seeing eye to eye. And so that can really prolong your implementation go live date. We've seen individuals who have had NetSuite for 2 or more years and have never gotten across that line to actually going live. And part of what we see it comes back to a lot of change management. Making sure, what we talked about before is, I think it's both that end user and the management team being aligned on the reasonings why you're going to go in with a new ERP system. Obviously you get to user adoption may come from stems of, are they losing their job? Are they being replaced by a system? So kind of upfront having some of those discussions, it helps to understand really what is the reasoning for this system. Again, it may be that there are efficiencies being made or headcount reductions. Most of the time, that's not the reason why people are putting in a new ERP system, but for whatever reason, that workforce seems to have that concept in the back of their mind. So taking the time and putting in a change management process along with your implementation does seem to help to get that kind of that 70%, get that over that threshold so that you are a lot better at doing the adoption rate. And again, they feel that they have a seat at the table of helping the business move forward. Again, understanding what your business processes are. I always try to come in with a very system agnostic approach when working with our clients. It's don't worry about NetSuite to start with. What is your business process? What is it that you are trying to accomplish? And to Leslie's point, we look at each of those areas of business. Let's focus just on order to cash. How are you reaching out to your customers? How are they doing their orders? Is it all through a CSR? Do they have, online e-commerce presence? Do they still mail in their orders? There's so many different things, right? You want to understand how those inputs happen. How are you collecting that data? How are then you pushing it out and communicating for a fulfillment process? So understanding that just from a process standpoint does help to align then as how does a system sit on top of it? How does natural NetSuite work within your process? And then we can take that approach of, all right, this is how you want to work. This is what natural does. Does it meet your business need? Or do we need to make, some concessions on customizations or whatever it may be? But again, aligning that up front and having those conversations all along the way, do make it for a much smoother process when doing your implementations. Okay. Another poll. So are you getting the most out of your NetSuite account? Leslie, this is a good one. What are your guesses on this one?
So far, not a lot of people are saying yes, but
right?
Some, but not a lot.
I'm probably actually more shocked on the not currently on NetSuite and kind of what that would look like then. Just because we're focusing a lot about, supporting your NetSuite. So.
Yeah, some people are considering it. A lot of unsures here, but we'll keep this open for about 10 more seconds.
I like the unsures, because at least if they've got a NetSuite account, but they're just unsure of how well they're using it, we want to tap into you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a few out there not currently on NetSuite, but considering it. So it's good to knowledge
Definitely.
first.
Come aboard.
Yeah, let's
And I
shut
think that,
this down. And
even those ones about the not currently on, the system, I think that, still taking those discussion points about an agnostic approach to an
Yeah.
application, still all this is very beneficial to understand. Is just, change management has nothing to do with an application, right? That's just a process. But, really understanding your business processes, that can happen regardless of a system that you're on. So
definitely. So let's take a look at the results here. And I guess a follow-up question on this too, for those that do say unsure, which is a pretty good portion of the audience, what are some telltale signs that you guys see where an organization might not be aware of the value they're missing in their NetSuite ERP system?
Well, I think coming up here, we're going to talk about 7 different ones.
Oh, so yeah, we'll cover it in
great
detail.
segue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a
great.
great question. And I think we're going to be able to cover it really quick here.
Perfect. We'll jump right into it. So let's shut this down. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for your responses.
All right. And so with that, now we're going to say, like what support really means. We're not just fixing bugs, but we want to be able to enable your ROI. All right. So for you that old like me, you get your glasses out here. Let's go ahead. We're going to start going through top 7 signs of needing support. So we've kind of touched on some of these again, but number 1, you're using workarounds more than NetSuite functionality. This is probably one of the biggest things that Leslie and I see in our role as a Boost consulting manager. It's how is that end user using the system? You'll be talking to one point of contact and then they're going to go to someone else and they're like, oh, perfect case I'll talk about is a client who's trying to do landed cost. They're not putting it into the system, so they're constantly pulling their inventory valuation reports out and then manually applying a duty percentage to understand really what is the carrying cost of their inventory. By understanding that discussion point with them and then just gleaning in on some of the discussion pieces that the client talks about, it kind of makes you perk up and said, is there a reason that we're not just putting landed costs into the system so that you're not having to manually run these reports outside of the system, and then you can accurately start looking at truly what your cost of goods are, all in, both duty and freight. So those are the types of things where, again, Leslie and I look at our clients and try to understand and think of is how are you using your system? What is it that you want to get out of it so that you're not constantly pulling data out and massaging it to make business decisions, but you can see that at a glance in real time with the data that's in NetSuite. All right, Leslie.
Yeah, reports take forever, or worse, they don't match your numbers. So a couple of things with reporting, right? There's in NetSuite, there's the natural reports, and then there's a lot of what is also referred to as safe searches. And sometimes it just might be, you've got 2 different people that are looking at 2 different reports, and it just might be how they configured that report. Maybe they're looking at a date range instead of an accounting period, or they're looking at a customer number instead of a customer name. Just little things like that can skew reports. So a couple of areas where we like to help out here is on some of the major reports, maybe you want to have that, have a person that has configured that report, and now it's shared. We're coming back to the dashboards again, right? Everybody's got that same report on their dashboard, so they're always looking at the same information together. The other thing you could do too is you can publish out a dashboard. So if you have key KPIs that you want your team members to be aware of and various reports, we can help you configure a specific dashboard that gets published. And then, you don't have the members, because I think Renee had referred to it before too, you don't have your employees taking a report, pulling it out, massaging it because it's not quite what they need. And now they're always referencing that reports in meetings or wherever else they may be referencing it, and not everybody's on the same page, right? So that's where we come in and we kind of help take a look at those reports and really make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to bananas.
Exactly. Next, your team dreads NetSuite updates and breaks things with every release. There's two sides to the story, right? I worked in for a client where, we did have a solution that you didn't have to do the updates. However, by not staying up to date with the updates and trying to make enhancements to the system or take advantage of new modules, it was very difficult because you had to get all of those different releases up to date before you could take on new functionality. I think one of the benefits of NetSuite and by being on cloud is that they do couple those releases twice a year. So one, it makes sure that everybody is on that same release. From a ease of making enhancements, bug fixes, it's not a question of we put it in, well, what release are you on? Everyone is on that same release. With that said, though, the more customizations that you have and configurations that are outside of the box, you do want to take that time and the energy twice a year and utilize your release preview to go through and start looking at where are there optimizations or customizations in your system and get those tested out. The nice thing by having that release preview is that you do have the ability to do that without having like an additional charge from NetSuite to get a sandbox, right? That's kind of like a free sandbox to use to say what's coming down the pike and will it be impacted by the release. You also can take advantage of that if there's something that you're working on that's new, and before you go and implement it, you can quickly see, will it already be impacted by the release as well? So it's a, kind of get ahead of the game on anything that you're newly customizing or scripting. Will there be an impact with the new release and get ahead of it? But it's always important just to make sure that you are doing your due diligence of look at the release notes that are coming out, go with a solution partner that can aid you in finding out, are there any break fixes or what are the new enhancements that are coming out, and how do your current customizations and scripts work in the new release? That's one of the benefits that we provide to our clients on the Boost program is twice a year we try to get ahead of that for our clients and see what is coming up with the new updates. One is educating them on what the new releases are. Sometimes they might be little mini things that you don't think are, grandioso in the scheme, but to the client, that's the exact thing that they've been trying to figure out in their business process of trying to, why can't I get over this hurdle? And then the other things just may be is, yep, it's, business quote, keep moving through, but we know that we aren't going to have an outage because we've addressed where there may have been impacts. I think one other thing is kind of beneficial within these new updates is that you do now have the ability to reschedule your release. So if you do have a very large, a business function or some type of a project that's, looking like it's going to go live at about the same time that NetSuite says that you're scheduled, go ahead and either push that up or push it out to make sure that, you're not going to be impacted from a major business. So whether it might be like an e-commerce event that you have going on, or a large CSR event where they're going to be calling into the call center, take out some of that noise and make sure that there aren't going to be any obstacles that are happening during that release time. Okay, Leslie.
All right. So next up, you've outgrown your original configuration. Again, I think some of this ties back to some of those percentages that we were giving at the beginning too. How much did you actually scope and talk about and identify what that plan was for whatever configuration that may be, right? Did we really tap into natural NetSuite's functionality with the idea of maybe enhancing it just a little bit? So this is where we play a lot with our clients that are on, we're going to talk about our Boost program a little bit here because that's what we do from a support standpoint. But, we're constantly working with our clients in different areas of business and where their pain points are. And a lot of it is, we started down this path on, this order to cash or procure to pay. And then now we are, procure to pay is a perfect example. Maybe you were doing a lot of domestic purchasing at one point, and now all of a sudden you're, going overseas. There's additional functionality like inbound shipments. We see where a lot of customers maybe try and play with locations to manage their on the water, in transit shipments, where there is functionality for inbound shipments. So when we're involved with the clients and they start to take their business to a different level, they're coming to us and saying, hey, what kind of functionality does NetSuite have to support this? And we've, got that institutional knowledge because we're not only looking at them as a client, but we've got clients across the board that we're working with, and so we've got another client that probably is already doing something similar to that. And we could share that national NetSuite functionality that will help support there. Now, if we're talking NetSuite overall, there are various levels of NetSuite. And, even just with, where we see sometimes people outgrow configuration too is when they have integrations, right? And they've got, they started out with maybe one integration and now all of a sudden they've got 4 or 5 integrations with NetSuite because of the different areas of business. So they've got all these calls that are coming back and forth, but they maybe only have one concurrency, maybe 2 concurrency, and now they're seeing that there's failures there. That's a lot of times where we end up helping too, is to get that additional concurrency in the tier levels for them to be able to adapt their system to be able to take in all those data points that are being passed and forth, back and forth with your integrations and making sure, or is it just we need to maybe schedule those so we don't have everything happening real time. Some of those integrations can be scheduled and maybe they're coming in at 11, 12, 2 in the morning when your business isn't quite as, high volumed. So those are different areas that we can help with identifying those outgrowths and reconfiguring.
Great. So that's a great segue into kind of the next point, which is integrations are constantly failing or they're not documented. So to Leslie's point, like as the business grows, there may be features that, it's either a suite app or it's something that you're connecting with a Soligo or a connector. Let's talk about like an e-commerce, like a Shopify, right? A Shopify platform, connecting your Amazon. Maybe you've outgrown just natural shipping, so you've gone into RF Smart. Any of those types of integrations that are in the system and you're looking at APIs. One of the biggest things is really making sure that that business process and the technical documents are kind of meshed together and that you really understand the why, right? Why is it happening? One of the benefits for understanding that why is, what we've seen with clients who, have come to us for support, they may have had an integration that was written by a different developer, a different third party, or actually even by somebody internally who's no longer with the organization. So as we kind of talked about, it's really being able to understand is the why was the integration put in the system in the first place and what is that integration supposed to be supporting. It's nothing worse than trying to come in and they're like, okay, the integration's not working. What do you mean the integration's not working? What is it supposed to do? We actually had someone that says, I'm not getting my data. And the question was, okay, what platform is it coming from? And I could just see deer in the headlights. Like, I don't know, the data just came in the system. Like, was it from Shopify? Is it from Magenta? Like, what are all the different systems that you could have? They had no idea. They go, and that's what I found out. They go, I've only been here for 4 days. All right, well, let's back this up a little bit, kind of then we get our developers in, let's get under the covers, under the hood and see what is happening and kind of dissecting it backwards, right? It's like really breaking it apart then to ask those questions so that we can understand, all right, this is what we're seeing does this sound like what it's supposed to be doing? Again, just so that we can help understand. Nothing worse than trying to say it's failing, but no one can provide guidance into why. We've got another one that they said, well, we're supposed to be getting documents sent with our files. I'm like, all right, so where are these going to? They said, third party. All right, third party what? And we find out it's going to a third party warehouse. All right, how are you sending it? Are you sending it through sales orders? Nope, once they're invoiced. All right. We keep kind of trucking down. But again, if you kind of have some of that, systemic knowledge or even just historical understanding of why something was built, it helps to troubleshoot or figure out, where can you make those next steps. All right, Leslie.
Yeah. So next up is you're calling your implementation partner for every small tweak and paying for it. One thing that we like to do is we like to empower, right? So it's one thing for us and our teams to help with a solution design, but we also want to empower your team to be able to understand how and why it was done. Just kind of even, tagging on to the one prior to with documentation. A lot of times as we do our walkthroughs, nowadays it's so easy on a team call or something to just record it, right? And also there's a lot of AI that's already integrated that's giving you your notes to it too. We typically record a lot of things when we're working through situations or presenting options for our clients. We record it and then we just load it up into their file cabinet. So you always have those as references for new employees when they come on to understand the you could turn them into training documents very easily for this as well. So we do that, but yes, the biggest thing is that we empower your team. We don't just align and design something and keep it internal. We empower your team. And a lot of times we find as we're working with clients, especially even when we're doing implementations, those SMEs just naturally rise to the top, right? The SMEs for the areas of business. And so we just empower them to become almost administrative for those areas too, right? They become the go-to people for your team. And that's where you get a lot of your buy-in as well, is if they're able to go to a team member, then it's not us versus them. It's more of them being empowered and they've got their own team members to rely on.
Yep. Again, great segue then is the users, don't use NetSuite the same way or at all. Again, by doing that empowering or finding those SMEs within the organization, we oftentimes find out that, it's not always a one-stop shop, right? We've talked about that there's multiple ways to be able to get to a transaction in NetSuite. And it may just come down to, whatever makes that user, I want to say happy, but it allows them the means of getting to it. And that's just how they know how to do it. That's how they're trained. As long as how they fill out, let's say that transaction document is like filling out the sales order, how they got to it may not be as critical as it is of completing the transaction itself and then following process. But again, it's just making sure that, those areas of NetSuite, like the order to cash process, your CSRs, your purchasing team, that they just understand how it is so that the output can be consistent and similar. How they got to it, that may be where you've got some flexibility. But we want to empower that they know how to use the system. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So what great support for your NetSuite looks like. We've really kind of touched on a lot of these, throughout this conversation. And really it kind of goes to, ongoing optimization, not just break fixes. It's looking forward into your business. Where do you want to continue to grow and find those efficiencies? So staying on top of the business and staying on top of new releases that are available in the system. We found that dedicated points of contact and that roadmap planning, that helps to kind of keep the business moving forward, where maybe it's a 75-25, right? 75% of the business is going to have those discussions on how can we optimize and keep moving forward, but maybe reserve about 25% because something comes up, right? There's going to be I quick how to, or I got this pop-up error. What does that look like? You're going to still see those. And then it's obviously those examples of the proactive support. So using your release preview, using your sandbox, taking time to do some audit steps to make sure, are there saved searches to see where we've got a critical point of data? Is it being filled out? So, anything else you want to add to that from a support standpoint, Leslie?
Yeah, so you're going to hear a little bit more about how we design our Boost program. But, Renee and I being BCMs, we're the business consulting managers. So we establish with our clients, whether it's weekly, biweekly, once a month, depending on their hours that we have available for them. We establish those meetings, and because we've got those meetings already established, it's amazing to see. I've got clients, and I know Renee does too, that will just throw us an email and say, hey, I'm thinking about this new whatever it may be. Can you put this on the agenda for our next sync up? Or, hey, we're having trouble with this. So now we become that additional extension of their business, right? That they can throw ideas out to us, and then we help keep track. And then now our next sync up is maybe more of a requirements gathering for how they want to, use new functionality, or they're leaning on us a little bit too to help them. Hey, we need to, we're looking at this for a third party. Have you guys had experience before? They can lean on us to have experience with some of those third parties that are out there. There's a lot of them out there that say they connect really well with NetSuite. We're kind of that voice of reason to say, yep, we've seen that those guys are really good, or, we've had some troubles with some other clients on those guys. So we can be that voice of reason too.
All right. The next poll question then is, which aspect of your NetSuite license would you like to learn more about?
Thank you. And that 5th poll has been launched. That should be up on everyone's screen. So our options here are pricing and billing structure, upgrading or downgrading license options, or all the above. Again, we'll keep this open for about 30 seconds to collect everyone's responses out there.
I know where I was thinking it was going to trend towards so far, so.
Yeah, and I guess a question on this too with the upgrading or downgrading license options. Once you add features, is it easy to remove them and get a potential reduction in price, or is that difficult to do?
Yeah, it's not the easiest to do. What they like to do is more of a swap out, right? Maybe there's some functionality that you're not necessarily using, or that just, you've outgrown and looked at something else. So NetSuite is more about a swap out.
Right. And that swap out, though, doesn't occur until at time of contract renewal. You can't drop anything in the middle of the contract.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. We'll go ahead and shut this poll down and share the results. So a lot of people saying all the above, pricing and billing structure, but still a decent number, interested in the upgrading or downgrading license options.
All right. So just kind of next steps, we want to kind of go through and discuss our Boost program a little bit. So Boost at GVO, it's our managed application services. So as Leslie spoke to, both she and I are part of our Boost consulting management team. We get a book of clients, and those clients can choose from 3 different Boost programs. So one is called Boost Stabilize, and that Stabilize, essentially, it is really just organized as a first step of support. You need light support, right? You're not looking to make a lot of huge changes, any issue resolving, looking at health monitoring, having just a point of contact if questions come up that you can reach out to a Boost BCM, someone that can just look at it for your system and kind of help move along. That limited number of hours that you're held to per month in order to move forward, and I believe it was about 5 hours of support a month. So next then is Boost Plus. So Boost Plus, what that looks at, it's a little bit more. You've got a named BCM again, but you've also get a technical, a functional, and a development resource that is assigned to your account. Again, the means of that is just making sure that you've got, a group or a team of members who understand what your business processes are, how your system is set up, and we're there for those weekly setups, either a monthly check-in. We're that extension of an administrator or your strategic partner on how do you want to move your system forward, and really kind of continuing to be ahead of the game on that. It is usually about a 15-hour engagement per month that we set up, and a lot of our clients that are on it utilize that information monthly to kind of keep moving through on small projects and casework. And then Boost Elevate. Again, Boost Elevate is, those larger strategic initiatives. Usually it's our larger clients who are using the Boost Elevate. They've got more hours that really are more of an extension of their IT department at that point too. So between IT and also a strategic partner of helping them understand, automation, enablement, advanced analytics, again, things that you want to really boost and promote your system with. We are that further extension, and there's more hours that are available to use than per month. All right, I think here's our last poll question then. What other third-party applications are you currently using or have been told to consider? I like the being told to consider.
Great, and that's up on everyone's screen. So VersaPay, Sligo, RF Smart, WorkHero, and other as well. And if you do select other, feel free to drop that into the questions box. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll shut this poll down at about 10 to 15 more seconds.
And again, these are all very specific third-party apps, right? There's not a lot of repetition between them. So
nice to see that people are familiar with them too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and shut this poll down. A lot of people saying other, but again, like you said, Leslie, that people are familiar with some of these apps as well. As I look in the questions box, we're getting some good feedback here. So we have Payroll, Paylocity, ECAPS, PAC, which they're saying has limited applications, a countywide system that they're using that apparently integrates with NetSuite in Los Angeles. So thank you everyone for your feedback on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Great feedback. All right. And then you want to take this one, Leslie?
Sure. So we also have what's called the Boost Forum out there. And what we do, right, is we've got some free learnings out there that you could see. We try and do some topics. We've got lots of recordings out there as well. We do have, a little bit of like a town hall periodically for people to join. And just talk about various topics that might be coming up.
So, yeah, and great. And then, there are some of those which you could go even further into the forum, which there are some paid trainings that go further in depth into certain topics. Obviously, with the free trainings, it is really kind of more high level. But if you do want to get into a very specific topic, those paid training forums are beneficial. All right, so that kind of wraps up where we're at then, Matt. So I guess we could open the floor if there's any questions. I know we're kind of running tight on time too, but.
Yeah, we are running up against it a little bit, but I think we have time for a couple questions here. We've had some good questions and comments from the audience throughout today's webinar. So one of the things you obviously talked about the Boost Forum and some of the support goVirtualOffice offers NetSuite users. We've had a lot of comments in the audience from NetSuite users who are currently using NetSuite support, and I got to say there's some frustration in some of those comments with some of the support that NetSuite has provided. So keeping in mind, what you talked about with the Boost Forum and some of the things you'd walk through, what would you say overall is the biggest difference when working with an outside partner like GVO versus getting that support directly with NetSuite?
Yeah, I can take that one quick. I think the biggest thing that you're going to find by engaging, with GVO and with our Boost team is we've all kind of sat in your seats, right? We've been end users of systems. So we understand frustration from users. We understand generally what it is they're trying to accomplish. We try to build that personal relationship. And like we say, we really want to feel like we are a member of your team. We don't have, like kind of a canned script that we're going through. We can get just as frustrated if we have to issue a bug fix to NetSuite. And they're like, have you done this? Yes, we've done this. So it's just like, can I get past that step one of support? But again, we as being the end users and trying to, I think be empathetic with the user and see what it is they're trying to find or what are the efficiencies, because we know where there could be struggles. But it's just, again, it's taking that human element into it. Anything you want to add with that too, Leslie?
Yeah, and we, again, the collaboration and the relationships too. I know NetSuite support, right, is if you've got like something very targeted that you want to go after. Whereas we like to get involved with you and a couple of different clients. I know Renee's done the same thing too. It's like, where are your pain points? Let's just talk about your pain points. Or we have working sessions. We've done that with clients too. It's like, hey, we'll just take an hour once a month and we'll come and people can either provide to that point of contact that we work with ahead of time. Hey, I'd like to see, I'm having a challenge running this report, or I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting all my results from this, or whatever that issue may be. And then we'll come and we'll do working sessions. And sometimes the other, somebody brings one issue to that working session. We start working through it. There's 5 or 6 other people from the team there. And then all of a sudden that stems conversations, right? And so now we have that collaboration that's happening more than just, a problem and a solution that's typed and sent back in like a very straight line response, right? Trying to make a point there, but we like to do more of that collaboration for sure. And again, we're trying to empower the team members to be able to go and do it on their own instead of just giving a response and calling it a day.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I think this comment kind of plays into what you're just talking about, but one of the comments was they wish that NetSuite would inform users, especially new users, of the capabilities of the system instead of be more reactive as they run into issues. So the question here is, and you did touch on this, is what do you think is the best way for a user, especially a new user, to understand some of those capabilities on the front end? Does that get to some of the targeted training you had mentioned earlier?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And we can help build, right? We can help build, if you want to use some hours to build a training program. Again, just using that, those recordings is a big thing. There is a lot of power in NetSuite Suite Answers if you know how to go about and play the game to find information in there too. It can be kind of a powerful tool. So, and then again, it will take you so far. Our team gets very creative too. That's what I love about the people that we have on our team, is that we can take, challenges that some of our clients have and we can get creative about it. We don't have to follow a formula that maybe has been, predetermined. So we like to get creative.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the insight. And we're running up against time here, so we appreciate everyone's comments and feedback. And we'll certainly share that with Leslie and Renee after the webinar, and they'd be happy to follow up if any other questions come up. I know their contact information too is on that slide with the Boost forum, so we'll make sure to share that too in the follow-up email to everyone. And just to recap our housekeeping items from earlier, if you did qualify for CPE credit, you can download that certificate from your Incorsa account. That will be available starting 1 hour from now. We'll post the recording from today's session to your account at some point this evening too. And then finally, once this webinar shuts down, there'll be a brief pop-up survey. We always appreciate your feedback on those surveys. We take that into account for future events. So Leslie, Renee, thank you so much for a very insightful webinar today and your discussion. Very helpful to our audience today. Thank you everyone who attended. We look forward to having everyone back in the near future. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thank you, Matt.
Yep, thanks Matt. Bye.
Thank you.